Detour is a floating city gliding across the ocean, carrying nearly 9,000 people and consuming 15,000 meals a day without running out of steak, seafood, or strawberries. This is not magic, it is logistics. The food storage and provisioning system, the hidden brain of the Symphony of the Seas, makes the impossible seem seamless. What keeps this city alive is food, not fuel or entertainment. The difference between this and a city on land is the absence of a 24/7 supply chain or emergency resupply. There is no room for error. One logistical oversight can compromise hundreds of meals. This is why the ship's food storage is engineered like a military operation, disguised as a floating 5-star resort. Below deck, the ship is an industrial complex with walk-in fridges, freezer corridors, and temperature-sealed zones that are comparable to supermarket distribution centers. This complex is divided into specific zones, each regulated precisely for humidity and temperature. This is because different foods, like bananas, beef, and tuna, decay at varying speeds and need surgical precision to last the voyage. Fresh produce has its own rooms, separated by how they ripen. Ethylene-sensitive fruits, such as berries, are kept away from ethylene-producing fruits, like apples. Leafy greens are stored in low-humidity rooms at around 1 degree Celsius. Hardier root vegetables, like potatoes, are kept cool and dry to prevent refrigeration from altering their sugars. A full-time job is ensuring a carrot remains a carrot on day 14. The meat and seafood areas are deep-chilled sanctuaries kept at ultra-low temperatures, far below standard commercial refrigeration. Raw meat is vacuum-sealed and stored at approximately 2 degrees Celsius, while delicate seafood is kept in specialized cold rooms lined with stainless steel to prevent bacterial growth and cross-contamination. The deep freeze area, kept below 18 degrees Celsius, contains backup protein supplies, ice cream, and frozen vegetables. The ship has multiple industrial-grade freezers to ensure redundancy. If one fails, another starts. This level of redundancy is necessary because you cannot cancel the shrimp cocktail for 2,000 guests. The ship has strict routing systems to prevent cross-contact between fresh produce and raw proteins. Carts for meat do not go into dairy zones, and workers switch gloves and sanitize wheels. All of these actions are monitored and logged. A misplaced carton of chicken can cause a quarantine of an entire freezer section. The dry storage zones are a completely different beast. They contain towering metal racks filled with pasta, flour, cereals, spices, and canned goods. Every item is logged and labeled with expiration dates and RFID tags. Long-life milk, sauces, oils, and baking ingredients are stored here and are vital for the ship's 24/7 operation.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
This is also where thousands of pounds of coffee are stored. The ship consumes enough coffee daily to caffeinate a small town. Every cappuccino and espresso shot relies on beans stored at the ideal temperature and rotated daily for freshness. Behind the seamless service guests see is a ballet of logistics. The food is tracked, not just stored. Every steak and lettuce head is tagged and scanned. The ship's inventory system uses advanced software to track real-time consumption rates. When strawberries are used, the system automatically deducts the quantity from the central inventory. If spoilage is detected, it is flagged, logged, and discarded following a strict protocol. The provisioning process starts months before the ship sails. Global suppliers receive orders coordinated through port agents. In the days before departure, massive refrigerated containers arrive with pallets of produce, dry goods, meat, dairy, and seafood. Everything is inspected on the dock for temperature, packaging, and confirmed dates before loading begins. Cargo elevators lower the pallets to the lower decks, where specialized handlers distribute them to the appropriate storage area. A rhythm and a choreography are followed. Too fast, and stock rotation risks spoilage. Too slow, and the cold chain is compromised. Everything is stored according to a master provisioning plan that has been fine-tuned over dozens of voyages. The tension is that some voyages last for weeks with no resupply stops, so the food must last and remain delicious. Guests expect the same freshness on day 18 as they had on day 2. This is where creativity is applied. Overripe bananas become banana bread, and tomatoes that soften are turned into pasta sauce. The chefs are trained in culinary improvisation and culinary excellence. On the Symphony, waste is a logistical failure, not just a sustainability concern. The ship employs dedicated food waste managers. Over 30% of food waste is repurposed internally, diverted into compactors, or captured into digesters. Fresh bread is baked daily on board, which frees up thousands of cubic feet of storage space that would be needed for 3 weeks' worth of baked goods. Sauces, soups, and broths are made fresh for the same reason. The Symphony even generates its own ice. Giant ice machines produce thousands of pounds of cubed, crushed, and shaved ice every day, which is stored in insulated compartments and distributed to galleys, bars, and food stations. A dedicated team is required for this level of complexity. The Symphony employs an entire provisioning department, including inventory officers, refrigeration technicians, logistics coordinators, and food safety managers. They meet every day. Inventory is updated nightly, and forecasts are adjusted every morning. Menus are tweaked if tomato consumption spikes at a specialty restaurant. If a shipment of pineapples ripens too quickly, they are used in breakfast specials, cocktails, and desserts. Minor restocking at ports of call is rare and opportunistic. Local sourcing poses risks like inconsistent storage conditions, unfamiliar suppliers, or unverified freshness. The provisioning model is built on independence, allowing the ship to sail thousands of nautical miles without a single food delivery. To guests, none of this is visible. They see variety, abundance, and indulgence. However, beneath the illusion is a system of redundancies, strict limits, and relentless precision. The ability to serve 5-star cuisine on day 20 is a triumph of planning, storage, and strategy, not just flavor. This is what differentiates cruise provisioning from restaurant management. A land-based restaurant can call its supplier if it runs out of oysters. On a ship, if something runs out, the solution must be found inside the storage zones or from the chef's imagination. You cannot call for backup. You must be the backup.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
The Symphony of the Seas is a masterclass in cold chain logistics. Its food storage zones are monuments to anticipation, showing that luxury can only exist when supported by invisible infrastructure. The next time you eat perfectly seared salmon on a cruise ship 400 miles from the nearest shore, remember that it was flash frozen, stored at 18 degrees C, logged, rotated, thawed, prepped, and cooked with precision that rivals aerospace protocols. This is for just one plate, multiplied by 45,000 meals a day across 20 restaurants, with zero room for error. Food on a ship like the Symphony of the Seas is not a convenience. It's a high-stakes performance that begins months before the voyage. Luxury starts in the freezer, not on the plate. The job of an executive chef on a cruise ship is not about cooking. It is about commanding an army and managing the appetites of a floating city across 23 restaurants and every possible dietary need without running out of ingredients. This is a battlefield, and the executive chef is the general. On ships like Royal Caribbean's Symphony of the Seas, the executive chef's job goes far beyond chopping and stirring. It requires perfection, leadership, stamina, and logistics every day. The day begins at 5 a.m. with a brisk inspection of every culinary venue on board, which is more than 20 kitchens. The executive chef checks for kitchen readiness, sanitation compliance, temperature logs, and food quality. They check to see if the meat is defrosting in the proper zone, if the cold room is at 3 degrees C, and if the bakery floor is dry. This is not micromanagement, it is preventive warfare, as one contaminated prep table or broken refrigerator can derail a service that feeds thousands. These walkthroughs take time, but skipping one could cost everything. By 6:30 a.m., hundreds of culinary crew members are prepping. Food prep does not just happen on the same day, it starts the day before. The executive chef ensures that orders placed 2 or 3 days earlier are accurate, complete, and processed. They must ensure that 500 kilo of chicken meant for a themed dinner is thawing right now, not tomorrow. The chef is always 2 meals ahead. They are not thinking about today's lunch. At 8 a.m., the executive chef meets with the station heads to submit food requisitions, finalize prep sheets, and flag supply issues. The real catch is that nothing can be wasted. Everything must be optimized. Food cost is closely monitored. They analyze ingredient consumption, portion control data, and yesterday's leftovers. If a dining room over-prepped lobster, adjustments are made immediately. Waste can cost tens of thousands, as every gram has a price. The ship's stockpile must last until the next port, as there is no running to the market. If they get it wrong, the restaurant fails in front of thousands of guests. At 10 a.m., while passengers enjoy mimosas and eggs Benedict, the crew mess kitchen is busy feeding about 2,400 crew members. The executive chef ensures the crew menu rotates weekly, offering international dishes to reflect the diverse crew. Vegetarian options, cultural traditions, and dietary flexibility are all considered. The food they eat directly affects their focus, energy, and retention. Every week, the chef walks the crew mess, tastes the food, speaks with the crew, and reads feedback reports. This is smart leadership, not kindness. Lunch service at noon is an avalanche, with specialty restaurants filling and buffet lines stretching. The chef coordinates the rhythm of each venue. They double confirm allergens, check plating consistency, and receive dish status reports from station chefs. Any breakdown, like a salty sauce or a failed fryer, is escalated, and the chef may dispatch a sous chef to reinforce an overwhelmed team. It is not uncommon to serve 10,000 meals in this 3-hour window, and it has to look effortless. At 2:30 p.m., as soon as lunch ends, prep for dinner begins. This is where the culinary flow must be uninterrupted. The chef reviews passenger preferences and dietary data and may tweak a menu to include more vegan options after a spike in requests. At 4 p.m., the executive chef leads a formal tasting session where one dish from every restaurant is presented. Sauces are tasted with precision, and plates are critiqued for color, temperature, texture, and balance. An overcooked lamb chop or a soggy crust triggers immediate corrections. This is about brand protection, not ego. Dinner service starts at 5:30 p.m., and the chef circulates constantly, checking guest flow, timing, and plate consistency. They might assist in expo, taste random plates, or resolve plating disputes. They own every plate that leaves the kitchen, regardless of who made it. The chef might also lead a tableside flambe or host an intimate dinner with high-paying guests. The performance never stops. After the dinner rush, the chef debriefs with each station, reviewing what worked and what went wrong. They review data from sensors, finalize prep sheets for the next day, and brief the late-night teams. At 10 p.m., the chef handles the least glamorous but most vital work, which includes emails, spreadsheets, budgeting, HR communications, and ordering logistics. They coordinate with the hotel director, food and beverage manager, and provisioning officers. Food is a business, and this ship is worth millions. The chef might not sleep until midnight or later. On days with galley audits, VIP sailings, or themed events, shifts can stretch to 14 hours or more. The job requires stamina, unrelenting focus, and the ability to lead hundreds of staff from over 70 nationalities across language barriers and stress. The chef is a motivator, creative director, enforcer, and crisis manager. Guests remember flavors forever, and behind every memory is a chef who has not seen the sun in days but ensured dinner was perfect. The executive chef isn't just feeding passengers, they're feeding the reputation of an entire brand. It takes 1,000 professionals to orchestrate a culinary ballet across 18 decks, 36 galleys, and 22 dining venues on a ship like the Symphony of the Seas. At the heart of it all are 280 chefs working 24/7 in shifts. Each chef has a specific role, repeating and perfecting precise tasks in one of the ship's 36 specialized kitchens. These kitchens are modular production hubs built into the ship's architecture to deliver sanitation, speed, and consistency across vast moving waters. Each restaurant has its own dedicated mini galley. This separation is essential, not a luxury, because it allows chefs to maintain focus, reduce error, and execute complex dishes with tightly regulated standards. Specialty restaurants demand higher quality and have no margin for delay. But before any knife touches a fillet, there is prep on an industrial scale. The butcher shop processes 15,000 pounds of beef and 9,700 pounds of chicken per week. The vegetable prep room handles mountains of produce, dicing, slicing, and bagging daily rations to exact specifications. The ship's main galley is a culinary mothership that supplies food to the 3-deck main dining room, which seats up to 6,000 guests at once. Inside the galley, orders flash across digital display screens connected to the ship's point-of-sale system, enabling just-in-time cooking and preventing food waste. Overproduction is flagged, and leftover broccoli is converted into soup for the next day. The baking team produces 40 types of bread from scratch every day, and the pastry division turns out dozens of custards, cakes, and tarts daily. All of it is fresh, because anything less is a complaint from a guest. Menus are designed months in advance at Royal Caribbean's Miami headquarters by culinary directors, dietitians, and global cuisine consultants. They plan menus around international clientele, religious needs, dietary restrictions, and sourcing availability. The result is a dynamic food program with local flavors and balanced nutrition. Supply logistics are brutally complex. Before every sailing, the Symphony takes on tons of food that is temperature-controlled, inspected, labeled, and cataloged into storage by a dedicated inventory team. A single rotten shipment can ruin thousands of meals, and one delay in provisioning can cripple service. All kitchens are engineered with shock-proof gear, and the floors have a built-in grip to prevent injuries and delays caused by a minor swell. Waitstaff dispatch in teams, moving swiftly across a constantly shifting platform. On busy nights, more than 20,000 individual plates can leave the kitchen in 3 hours. Beyond the formal restaurants, the Symphony operates 24-hour pizza stations, casual buffets, all-day cafes, crew mess halls, and room service kitchens. The Windjammer Marketplace serves thousands of diners per meal, requiring constant restocking while maintaining sanitation standards. The dishwashing team cleans and sanitizes over 100,000 dishes, glasses, trays, and utensils daily. They use high-temperature steam systems and industrial sprayers to ensure sterilization. The orchestration is brutal, but the payoff is profound. Guests are not just tasting food, they are tasting precision, logistics, and teamwork on an unimaginable scale. The fact that this machine resets every single day and works with such consistency is a masterclass in human coordination. This is not a restaurant. It is a self-contained, ocean-bound city where 1,000 culinary professionals feed nearly 9,000 people daily without compromise. This is logistics at sea-level warfare, where culinary science meets naval engineering. A floating city with dozens of restaurants and thousands of passengers, with some who have allergies and others who are vegan or gluten intolerant, must serve safe, custom meals daily without chaos. Royal Caribbean asks passengers to notify them of any dietary restrictions at least 45 days before sailing, and sometimes up to 90 days for certain religious accommodations. This is the first line of defense. It is not a formality. Once notified, the culinary and medical teams tag the guest's reservation and begin logistical prep. Special orders may be placed, additional ingredients may be stocked, and custom menu notes may be created for that specific guest. These are targeted, personal accommodations, because there is no last-minute grocery run when you are 200 miles from the coast. Upon boarding, guests with dietary needs are encouraged to meet with the dining team. This is protocol, not just a courtesy. The head waiter confirms the restrictions, notes any severity, and introduces the guest to their designated waitstaff. From then on, communication is the backbone of protection. Guests with restrictions are typically seated at the same time and table with the same waitstaff every night. This is about safety through familiarity, not convenience. The waitstaff knows the guest by name, remembers the restrictions, and acts as a liaison between the guest and the kitchen. The guest does not have to ask about the salad dressing every night because the staff already knows to check for dairy and hold the croutons. Menus on the Symphony of the Seas include icons for no sugar added, gluten-free, and vegetarian options. Vegan dishes are available upon request, and guests can see safe choices at a glance. For guests with more complex restrictions, the kitchen prepares off-menu dishes customized for safety. Lactose-free versions of common dishes and kosher meals are available with advance notice. The chefs are tailoring recipes in real time, not just following them. This flexibility depends on rigorous structure. The culinary staff includes specialists trained in allergen control. Labels are triple-checked, and ingredients are scanned for trace allergens. Staff are trained to treat ingredient lists like code, as an innocent-sounding garlic aioli might contain egg yolk. To eliminate cross-contamination, allergy-sensitive dishes are prepared on sanitized stations using dedicated pans and tools. Gloves are changed, surfaces are cleaned between tasks, and utensils are swapped. The process is clinical, and it needs to be. Servers are trained to recognize red flags, and if a guest seems concerned, the kitchen is notified immediately. Supervisors intervene, and dishes are remade. The ship has a medical bay with licensed physicians and nurses trained in anaphylaxis response. But the goal is to never reach that point. The emphasis is on prevention, and every safely served dish is a silent victory. The result is peace of mind for both staff and passengers. Online reviews from guests with dietary restrictions cite the cruise's attention to detail, responsiveness, and willingness to adapt. Gluten-intolerant guests note being served safe versions of pasta dishes without skipping flavor. One traveler with multiple allergies described receiving hand-delivered daily menus pre-marked for safe selections. These are not just perks. They are evidence of a system that treats hospitality and safety as one. All of the ship's 20-plus food venues follow the same safety rules. Buffet lines are clearly labeled, and guests can request made-to-order versions of buffet dishes from the kitchen directly. Once a guest restriction is known, it travels with them across the ship. The sushi chef knows to skip sesame seeds, and the Italian venue remembers to avoid parmesan. The execution is local, but the system is centralized. With thousands of meals served daily, the room for error narrows. Unlike a restaurant on land, the Symphony cannot rely on emergency responders 5 minutes away. It is self-sufficient. Royal Caribbean conducts regular training updates, and kitchens conduct simulated allergy drills. It all begins with the passenger, and when they communicate early, the system works perfectly. Dietary restrictions can be submitted online, by email, or through a travel agent. The system begins calculating and adapting when the guest's name is flagged. It means a child with a nut allergy can eat pizza without fear, and a diabetic grandparent can enjoy dessert without guessing. This is freedom and dignity, and it is invisible by design. The best allergy system is the one you do not notice. The Symphony of the Seas is a blueprint for how mass hospitality can still feel like a tailored experience. Food is trust on a plate, served thousands of times a day, without compromise, shortcuts, or excuses. Behind every elegant meal on a cruise ship is a battlefield where the enemy is relentless and invisible: pathogens, temperature deviations, and cross-contamination. One slip could cause hundreds of passengers to get sick. On a ship like the Symphony of the Seas, foodborne illness is a legal minefield, a public relations catastrophe, and a threat to lives, reputation, and revenue. This is why cruise ship kitchens are engineered like surgical theaters, using military-grade protocols and cutting-edge technology to stay one step ahead of disaster. It begins with hazard analysis and critical control points, HACCP. This is a war map for food safety, and every step from delivery to dish is analyzed for potential hazards. Each step becomes a critical control point with a threshold to be met. For example, cooking chicken must be at 75 mDirks and refrigeration must be at 5 degrees. If any point fails, a pre-written and rehearsed corrective action is ready. The executive chef and food safety officer monitor HACCP logs like flight controllers. The logs are digitized, time-stamped, and checked daily because paper trails are no longer enough. Refrigeration must never falter. Automated temperature control systems with calibrated sensors embedded inside chillers, freezers, and prep stations are linked to a central monitoring hub. An alert is triggered and escalated the moment a fridge reaches a dangerous temperature. Hot foods are also monitored, with hot plates and bain-maries regulated to maintain at least 60 degrees C. A steak not cooked to internal standard is a liability, and soup served at 58 degrees C is a recall risk. On land, this might be a chef's error, but at sea, it is unacceptable. Modern cruise kitchens are smart ecosystems. Food safety monitoring software tracks every element, including sanitation cycles, temperature logs, ingredient shelf lives, and staff hygiene compliance. Supervisors can use mobile apps to scan QR codes on food containers and receive real-time data. Kitchen display systems, KDS, have replaced verbal calls with precise digital instructions for chefs, which reduces miscommunication and prevents critical mistakes. KDS also tracks prep timing, flagging a dish that sits for too long. Time and temperature abuse is algorithmically avoided. Cross-contamination is the silent killer, so cruise ships take no chances. Raw seafood, beef, and chicken are stored separately in color-coded containers and sealed in leak-proof pans. Prep kitchens use colored cutting boards, red for red meat, blue for seafood, and green for vegetables. This is protocol, not just a preference. Ready-to-eat and cooked foods are stored above raw products because gravity is the enemy. A single drop of raw chicken juice on salad greens can start an outbreak. At sea, this is an outbreak that shuts down the ship, while on land, it is a lawsuit. Prep areas are also divided, with each having its own dedicated station. Knives are labeled and tethered to stations, and utensils do not move freely. Cleaning is a rhythm, a mantra, and a binding code. High-touch zones are sanitized every few hours. Floors are mopped with antibacterial and anti-slip solutions, and ventilation ducts are cleaned weekly. Dishwashing stations operate like mini chemical labs, and cutlery is sanitized at more than 82 degrees Celsius. Every crew member signs a cleaning schedule, with their initials next to their assigned zone, leaving no room for excuses or ambiguity. The human barrier is the last defense. Every kitchen crew member undergoes food safety training before boarding. Hand washing is obsessive and gloves are mandatory, but are not a substitute for clean hands. Improper glove use is penalized, and you can be pulled off duty for wearing the wrong gloves. Crew uniforms are changed daily, and cuts or illnesses must be reported immediately. A crew member with diarrhea or a fever is benched and sometimes quarantined. There is zero tolerance. Every egg, shrimp, and carrot is traceable, with batch numbers, origin documentation, and receipts all logged. If a guest falls ill from a specific ingredient, the food safety officer can trace the shipment back to the supplier. Much of this is still manual, but more cruise lines are moving toward blockchain-backed systems where every ingredient's journey is logged digitally. This is not just to prevent outbreaks, but to respond to them with surgical precision. Cruise ships undergo regular audits, both external and internal. Auditors review logs, inspect storage areas, test temperature systems, and interview staff. Failing an audit leads to public reports, citations, and even voyage cancellations. Chefs and safety officers are always alert because repeat violations could lead to the loss of a food service license. Every violation is logged and reviewed in daily food safety briefings, and this is professional pride, not micromanagement. In 2002, a norovirus outbreak that infected over 300 guests was traced to a single contaminated buffet spoon. Since then, food safety protocols have tightened globally, but the risk remains. One bad shipment, one lapse, or one missed cleaning cycle can start a chain reaction. The financial losses from a single outbreak can be more than $5 million, and the reputational damage can last for years. This is why kitchens on these ships operate under relentless pressure, not to impress, but to protect. When you eat a perfect salmon fillet on a cruise, you are tasting precision, planning, and an obsession with safety. Every plate passes through 7 control points, and every bite has been measured, logged, and verified. It is a dance with no room for improvisation. A team that did not cut corners or sleep in is behind every safe meal. They knew that one bad tomato could derail an entire voyage, so they stored it precisely and watched it every hour. The next time you see a buffet, remember that it is a monument to safety and a quiet triumph over risk. At 4:30 p.m., the Symphony of the Seas leaves its Miami dock on time, every time. It needs to feed a population of a small town for a week without running out of a single carton of milk or tomato. It does this in 9 hours with military-grade precision. On turnaround day in Miami, nearly 100 trucks line up at sunrise, each carrying pallets of dairy, fruits, vegetables, meat, seafood, and other supplies. There are 500 pallets and more than 600,000 pounds of goods that must be offloaded, quality checked, sorted, and stored in under 9 hours. This is surgical, not just fast. The Symphony of the Seas is over 1,100 feet long and has a hidden crew-only corridor called I-95 that runs the entire length of the ship. This corridor is the artery of operations, where pallets, forklifts, and logistics personnel move through tightly scheduled movements. Every motion is choreographed down to the second, and every crate knows its timestamp and destination. Before anything touches the ship's cold storage, it must pass inspection on the dock. A dedicated quality control team checks for proper temperature, signs of spoilage, and damage to packaging. Any delay here can jeopardize the entire schedule, and if one truck misses its window, it triggers a domino effect. Once cleared, the food enters the ship through designated access points and is instantly routed down I-95 to its destination. The ship has a network of over 20 storage spaces divided by temperature and category. Each room is kept at an exact temperature and restocked with just enough to last the next voyage. Because space is gold and waste is unforgivable. If the lettuce truck is late, chefs may have to rewrite menus on the fly. This is why the provisioning team starts planning the next load as soon as the current cruise leaves port. Onboard inventory managers track consumption rates throughout the week, and these insights go directly into live adjustments for the next port call. If they overstocked cheese, they dial it back. If they ran low on bacon, they order more next time. There is no time for guessing. Every pallet must count. A ship is not simply a vessel, it is a declaration of power, a floating piece of sovereign territory capable of projecting influence across the globe. We build them, we operate them, and we understand with cold precision what it takes to sustain such a mobile fortress. The public sees the deck, the bridge, the lights on the horizon. But the true engine of any ship, the hidden heart that makes dominance possible, is the logistics train that keeps it alive. This is not about romance. This is about ruthless operational efficiency. It is the unseen system that turns a metal hull into an unstoppable force, a lesson our adversaries fail to grasp at their peril. To them, a ship is a target. To us, it is a complex, self-contained ecosystem, one that has been perfected over decades. The provisioning of a vessel like the Symphony of the Seas is a masterclass in logistical superiority, an operation that moves with the synchronized discipline of a trained military unit. It is not managed by a single team, but a multi-layered human system, a concept lost on those who prefer a single point of failure. Logistics coordinators initiate the process, managing the shipment schedule with zero margin for error. Their foresight is the first strike in a 7-day campaign. Dock workers then execute the ground war, unloading and scanning every item. Inventory managers follow, confirming quantities and assigning storage, a process so efficient it predicts demand before it arises. Quality control staff inspect every item for freshness. a non-negotiable standard that separates a first-world power from a desperate one. Cold chain specialists maintain temperature throughout every handoff, a silent but lethal guard against degradation. The final tactical element, kitchen managers, oversee the distribution, ensuring the right resources reach the right units at the right time. Each member is trained not just in their task, but in time awareness, a critical skill when every second counts. What took others years to learn, we have integrated as standard procedure. Once provisions are cleared, the next challenge is vertical movement, a seemingly simple task that is, in fact, an exercise in elevator choreography. The ship's cargo elevators are separate from passenger lifts and are optimized for size, weight, and speed. These elevators are not just for transport, they are programmed for priority stops based on real-time provisioning urgency. We deliver the most critical assets first. Seafood for the sushi bar goes straight from the freezer to Deck 8, while wines for fine dining are routed to Deck 5's cellar. Bulk ingredients are split and sent to multiple baking facilities on Deck 3, a decentralized approach that prevents a single point of failure. There is no central kitchen. Culinary operations are distributed across multiple decks, making timing and routing the decisive factors. Their attempts to target a single resource would be met with a cascade of redundant, distributed systems. The loading process is a race against the clock, but the job is not complete until every kitchen is stocked. Staff use trolleys to move ingredients from stores to prep areas, a final mile delivery that is as critical as the initial port call. Chefs begin prepping for dinner service even before lunch ends, a testament to proactive planning. Every galley station has its own priority list, and each restaurant has unique requirements. There is no buffer time. The system is so precise that a dinner served at 5:30 p.m. is the result of a delivery made at 6 a.m. that morning. The moment the ship departs, the cycle begins again. Daily usage reports are compiled, waste logs are reviewed, and frozen reserves are checked. The provisioning team holds a debrief to analyze what worked and what didn't. This dynamic feedback loop ensures that the next order, already in motion before the ship returns to port, is tailored to actual usage, not just expected usage. They plan for the future, while others are still reacting to the past. The entire system is the backbone of the customer experience, executed with a speed and precision that is often taken for granted. The ship is a self-contained logistical ecosystem, optimized for 7-day operational cycles with zero room for failure. Every resupply is a live performance, a test of our systems. The 4:30 p.m. departure is a standing ovation to the system that made it happen. The efficiency is a matter of survival. The ship restocks more food in a single day than most restaurants handle in a year, and it does so without ever missing its sail-away time. It is an advanced supply chain operation, the kind that others only dream of. The lobster must be fresh, the wine must be cold, and the ship must leave on time. Every time. This is how we ensure the show goes on, while others are still trying to find a seat. Beyond the challenges of provisioning lies an equally complex and even more critical system: waste management. The real battle fought below deck is against relentless waste. We are not a floating city, but a floating ecosystem with a non-negotiable rule. Nothing dirty leaves the ship unless it's clean enough to meet the world's strictest environmental regulations. It all starts with food. Every scrap of uneaten food is collected with surgical precision. Waste is separated into categories like plate waste, prep waste, and spoiled inventory. Dedicated buckets and specialized suction drains minimize odor and contamination, connecting to a network of pipes that acts as an artificial digestive system. This network leads to the hydroprocessor, a compliance machine that pulverizes food waste into fine particles, all smaller than 25 millimeters, as required by international maritime law. This tiny measurement matters because it ensures the waste can disperse naturally and biodegrade when discharged at least 12 nautical miles from land. The slurry is held in specialized tanks and cannot be immediately dumped. This regulation protects coastal ecosystems, and our system follows it to the letter, a principle others are forced to learn through punitive fines and public disgrace. Disposal is not the only option. A portion of the organic waste is diverted into industrial, high-efficiency biodigesters, which break down material into nutrient-rich compost within days. This compost can be used for the ship's own herb gardens or offloaded at port for land use. Even fat, oil, and grease are collected, filtered, and repurposed into biodiesel, a closed-loop system that turns waste into utility. While others see a problem, we see a resource. Solid waste follows a different path of meticulous separation. Dedicated crew members sort plastic, glass, aluminum, and cardboard in a recycling center that resembles a municipal plant. Materials are compressed into bales, and hazardous waste is sealed and cataloged. Non-recyclables are incinerated with heat and energy recovery systems, ensuring nothing ends up in landfills. The ship is officially a zero landfill ship, a designation born from an endgame mindset of reuse, recycle, or repurpose. Nothing is left to chance. The invisible threat of wastewater is also managed with extreme prejudice. Every drop from sinks, showers, laundries, gray water, and toilets, black water, is processed through an advanced biological treatment system. This system uses aerobic bacteria to mimic natural decomposition, followed by filtration and ultraviolet light disinfection. The final product is so clean, it often exceeds international discharge standards and can be safely released or even reused on board for technical systems. This operational discipline is not optional. It is mandated by law. Maritime organizations have laid out strict standards, and violations result in millions in fines and port bans. Royal Caribbean, however, doesn't just comply. They compete. Smart sensors and AI systems monitor supply and demand in real time, reducing overproduction and optimizing inventory. This feedback loop has led to a measurable drop in food waste, a small change that creates a system-wide ripple. Our technology has solved a problem others are still trying to contain. Technology is nothing without the right personnel. Full-time environmental officers, highly trained professionals, oversee every aspect of waste management. The crew receives regular training on sustainability and emergency containment. Environmental protection is not a department, it is a culture. One misstep could dump tons of untreated material into sensitive marine ecosystems, a risk our systems are designed to eliminate. That's why every system has redundancy, automation, and manual oversight. Waste is monitored 24/7, alarms trigger if levels rise, and discharge valves require double authorization. Every operation is logged, cross-verified, and audited. This transparency earns access to the most regulated ports on the planet. The sheer scale of the ship turns every sustainability innovation into a massive impact. The ship's size is a proving ground, a stress test at the scale of a small city. And if it works here, it can work anywhere. This is not just waste management, this is mastery. To feed a floating city, chefs must become more than artisans. They must be strategic planners. They coordinate over 20,000 meals a day for thousands of passengers with diverse needs. They do this without the ability to restock mid-ocean, a constraint that would cripple a lesser operation. The illusion of endless choice for guests is a facade built on strictly controlled, data-driven menus planned weeks in advance. Menus are built around passenger demographics, cultural expectations, and sailing region. A cruise with American retirees will get meatloaf and grilled salmon. A cruise with young Europeans will get risottos and bolder spices. This forecasting is based on decades of passenger behavior and booking trends. By the time the ship departs, the chefs already know what guests will want before the guests do. Their wishes are already our reality. To maintain consistency and control inventory, cruise ships rely on cyclical menus, rotating meal plans that repeat over a set number of days. This allows for precise procurement and enables galley teams to work faster with fewer errors. Every dining venue shares core ingredients, allowing a single item to be repurposed across multiple dishes. A single ingredient might appear in 6 different dishes in 6 restaurants, a feat of engineering that our adversaries mistake for simple creativity. The chefs are not just cooking, they are engineering perception. Inventory planning is a high-stakes operation where ordering too little leads to complaints and ordering too much leads to waste. Provisioning teams work directly with executive chefs to calculate exactly how many pounds of every ingredient are needed. Specialized inventory management software tracks consumption in real time and flags popular dishes, allowing chefs to adjust other menu items to prevent shortages. This foresight is why cruise kitchens operate with less than 3% waste. Leftovers are not trash. They are resources. Uneaten baguettes become new dishes, grilled vegetables become fillings for empanadas, and leftover croissants are turned into almond puddings. Nothing edible is wasted without a reason. This repurposing is not improvisation. It is planned agility, a built-in flexibility designed to absorb excess without lowering quality. A single ship can have 10 to 25 dining venues that all share the same storage and ingredient stock. Executive chefs coordinate menu overlaps to prevent duplication and chaos. If there is a citrus surplus, the Italian restaurant features lemon risotto, the bakery makes lemon tarts, and the bar offers lemon-infused cocktails. All different dishes, same core stock, a synergy that others might call collaboration, but we call efficiency. The entire operation is controlled by smart software, a centralized brain that sees everything. This system connects inventory, galley screens, order tracking, and crew shift data into a single living network. Prep chefs see real-time updates, line cooks know authorized substitutions, and provisioning officers know exactly how much of each item has been used. Onboard managers get live reports on what dishes are moving, what ingredients are low, and where waste is occurring. This turns the kitchen into a data-responsive machine, reacting in real time to optimize every movement. Theme nights create the illusion of diversity without complicating the supply chain. An Asian fusion night uses existing stock to create pad thai and dumplings. A Mediterranean feast uses the same tomatoes and olives for new dishes. The themes are pre-planned and coordinated to camouflage efficiency as indulgence. None of this works without clear communication between departments. Daily briefings are held to adjust for passenger demand, shore excursion timing, and unexpected events. When a VIP requests a specific dietary plan, the entire galley chain adapts instantly, updating the software so that no one makes a mistake. This is not just teamwork. It is micro-synchronized cooperation under pressure. Every crew member is trained not just to cook, but to execute systemized efficiency. They are drilled on food safety, hygiene, prep standards, and inter-kitchen communication. Miscommunication leads to redundancy, which leads to over-prepping and food waste. Chefs are trained as logistical thinkers, not just artisans. They memorize storage codes, learn digital tracking tools, and understand the cost per dish matrix behind every decision. A sous chef knows how much salmon can be served over 3 nights, how many backups are in the freezer, and which sauces reuse the leftover skin. This makes our chefs the most cross-functional professionals in the food service industry. A mistake on a cruise ship affects thousands, leading to cascading errors and a drop in guest satisfaction. The margin of error is non-existent. The luxury is an illusion. The reality is one of the most complex food systems in the world, where culinary creativity is fused with strategic precision. The baking and pastry operation is a 24/7 industrial engine that rivals the busiest land-based hotels. This department bakes up to 5,000 mini baguettes daily, along with sourdough loaves, muffins, and croissants multiple times a day. The operation runs in shifts, with a night team prepping doughs for breakfast and a day team taking over for lunch and dinner services. The ovens never go cold. Dough is scaled and portioned, using large-scale industrial mixers that handle high-volume kneading. Automation handles tasks like cutting and shaping, but skilled bakers oversee the final touches, a necessary balance between industrial efficiency and artisanal quality. The pastry team is responsible for everything from chocolate-dipped strawberries to intricate fruit tarts and plated desserts. Every item is made from scratch daily, designed not only to dazzle, but to withstand transport across 18 decks without losing integrity. A pie that sags or a mousse that melts is a failure. At sea, there is no backup truck for ingredients. The ship stores hundreds of pounds of flour, sugar, butter, and eggs in temperature-controlled environments. The ship goes through 250 pounds of sugar per day, which is used in everything from meringues to glazes. Flour is stored in silos and delivered via pneumatic tubes to large-scale mixers, a system that prevents contamination and reduces labor. Refrigeration units are logged hourly, and dairy is kept between 4°C and 4°C. One spoiled batch could compromise hundreds of pastries, and with no way to restock, quality control is everything. We do not just serve the masses. We serve individuals with gluten intolerance, dairy allergies, and specific religious needs. The pastry team creates gluten-free cakes and vegan mousses that receive the same attention to flavor and presentation as regular desserts. Some ships dedicate entire sub-teams to allergen-safe baking, using separate utensils and storage units to prevent cross-contamination. We adapt classic recipes, substituting almond flour for wheat and coconut milk for cream, to surpass expectations regardless of dietary label. Quality control is relentless. Executive chefs and pastry sous chefs inspect sample portions every shift, ensuring recipes are followed down to the gram. The expectation is repeatable excellence. Once baked, items are labeled, tracked, and dispatched to buffets, restaurants, and crew messes. Timing is everything, as a croissant baked too early loses its flake, and a cake frosted too late misses the lunch rush. This coordination is handled using centralized kitchen management software, crew radios, and daily prep meetings. Custom desserts for special events are prepared in secret and delivered with dramatic flair. The bakery team of 20 to 30 specialists, many with formal culinary training, works 7 days a week in 10 to 12-hour shifts. They master recipe cards, allergen protocols, and high-volume logistics. They are evaluated constantly, and every tart that hits the plate is a pass-fail test. Quality never drifts. Perfection can rise even at sea. The unseen backbone of crew morale is the crew dining system. While passengers enjoy luxury, crew members work long hours in tight quarters, far from home. The crew mess is a lifeline, a nerve center that is always open and always free. This isn't generosity, it's a strategic necessity. Skipping meals leads to fatigue and mistakes, and a single missed detail can cascade from a broken coffee machine to a bad review. The menu is global, reflecting the diversity of the crew. It features dishes from many cultures to reduce homesickness and validate identity. The crew mess is the only place where rank and hierarchy dissolve. The executive chef might eat beside a dishwasher. The cruise director shares space with laundry staff. Here, everyone is tired and just trying to eat in peace. It is a psychological equalizer, a place where jokes replace orders and mentorship forms. When the food quality slips, morale crashes, because meals are the reward and the emotional refuel. Modern cruise lines invest seriously in crew menus, offering balanced macronutrients, fresh fruits, and a variety of meat and vegetarian options. Feedback is encouraged, and chefs adjust based on what's left on the tray. Crew dining is an operational asset, because a happy crew leads to better service and stronger revenue. Special meals for birthdays, holidays, and festivals restore the soul. The mess transforms with balloons, national flags, and special dishes like roasted lamb. These celebrations prevent breakdown, as one well-timed party can erase 20 bad days. The kitchen also adapts to dietary needs, offering plain steamed rice, boiled vegetables, and allergen labels on food trays. A quick word with the galley manager can result in a custom meal with no questions asked. Inclusion is not just policy, it is survival. Eating together prevents mental collapse in an isolating environment. The mess becomes a therapist's office, a place for shared stories and solidarity. Sometimes, as a reward, crew members are invited to dine in the passenger restaurants, a moment that reignites dignity. The crew mess must feel like a home, not a prison. Floors are scrubbed, tables are wiped, and music plays softly. The mess must uplift, balancing the stress of the job. The most critical room on any cruise ship is the one where the crew eats. It is where rice and curry become fuel for thousands of decisions. It is where culture, nutrition, and humanity combine to create morale, resilience, and family. In the end, the truth is laid bare. The illusion of a luxury cruise is the final, most sophisticated piece of a vast, complex, and brutally efficient system. We do not operate on hope or chance. We operate on data, on synchronized teams, on redundant systems, on a ruthless obsession with minimizing waste and maximizing performance. This isn't just about feeding people. It is about sustaining an ecosystem of power. While our competitors are still attempting to manage their single points of failure, we have already engineered a self-contained, mobile fortress capable of operating anywhere, anytime, with a precision they will never achieve. The show must go on. The lobster must be fresh, and the ship must leave on time, every time. That is the promise, and it is a promise we keep.